Is nothing more than comparing two numbers or two measurement things, comparing two whatever units of measurement. What's the book say? Two numbers by division. It's really a fraction by division. I'll write this down and then we'll talk just a little bit more about it. For example, if you have, well, let's just use your class here. There are, how many boys in your class?
8.
8 boys. And how many girls?
4.
4 girls in the mighty 7th grade. What's the ratio of girls, or girls, oh, sorry, let me find that again, of girls to boys? Question mark. Now, first things first, order matters very much. Here is the ratio you want. You want girls to boys. And if that's the case, the first one listed, when you write it out in fraction form, goes on top. So you'd have to put the number of girls on top, and then on the bottom is the number of boys. And from that, you can get that from the problem. There are, and notice it's not 8 over 4, it is actually 4 girls should go on top over 8 boys on the bottom. And an important thing to remember with this as well, you do need to reduce, but you also need to leave as improper if it ends up being improper. Okay, so this ends up being 1/2, or as we say, 1 to 2. This is your ratio of girls to boys. If I flip that over and ask you the ratio of boys to girls, okay, boys end up being the quantity on top, girl is on bottom, and there are 8 boys over 4 girls. Again, you'd reduce it, but you have to leave it in fraction form. You end up 4 to 1. You don't put just the number 4 because that doesn't make sense when you talk ratios. The ratio of boys to girls is 4. If you told that to somebody, they would have no idea what that means. 4 to 1 makes sense. 4 is not a ratio. 4 to 1 is the ratio. Okay. Now, sometimes, just so you know, ratios also can be written. We have this as, do I not, oh, I'm
It will
sorry.
be 2 over 1.
Yeah.
4 over 1.
Sorry, 2 over 1. I don't know what I was doing. I wonder why people are staring out there. 2 to 1. Sometimes you can also write ratios like this. You could write it as 2 to 1. You could write it out in word form. Or occasionally you'll see it like this. 2, that's that. Occasionally you will see people write it like this, 2 with a colon, 1. All different ways you can write when they talk about ratios, but 99.876% of the time they'll just ask you to write it in fraction form. Okay? They don't generally write it like this, don't generally write it like this. You know, if you're given odds, a lot of times you'll see it like that as a comparison like that, but normally we just write it in fractional form. Now what if I asked you to give the ratio of boys to total students? sometimes you may have to do a little bit of work there. You do know how many boys there are, which are still 8, but total students isn't 4, total students is 12, right? And reducing that, you get 2 to 3. 2 out of every 3 people in 7th grade would be a boy. Did I get that right? Sometimes I get it right. Sometimes I don't. Another example would be, well, look in your books at page 188. 188. See if we can quickly just answer a couple racial problems there from the practice there. For example, letter C. What is the ratio of the height of the flagpole to the length of the shadow? Again, you want to make sure you're putting the height over the length of the shadow. And they give you that information there. What is the height of the flagpole? What does it say? The height of the flagpole is, yes, 20 feet. Are you with me? What is the length of its shadow? 24 feet. You definitely need to reduce it. You've got 10 over 12, cut it in half again, 5 to 6. 5 feet to 6 feet. What is the ratio of the length of the shadow to the height of the flagpole? Well, it's that pretty much that same thing. See, I don't know why they do that. Let's just look at letter F. Using the table in example 4, what is Rose's approximately reading rate in minutes per page? Now look at this, look up here please. Reading rate in minutes per page. Again, reviewing this for you, ladies and gentlemen and children of all ages, focus your eyes up here quickly. Don't get confused when they ask you rates because they tell you exactly what they want because of this word right here. The word per in math is the fraction line, the fraction bar. So when, no, it's not multiplying, what is that? That's the word of. So when they ask you to give the rate in minutes per page, they want it to look like this. The number of minutes, fraction line per page. And you just have to take the information they give you, which they tell you it is, the table up top says what? They said approximate. Well, if you look at it on Monday, it was 30 minutes for 15 pages. 30 minutes for 15 pages, which is what? You reduce it? 2 minutes per page. You have to kind of take a look at the other ones. What's the next one? 11 over 20. So that was 20 minutes for 11 pages. Well, what's that close to? It doesn't really reduce, but if this was a 10 on the bottom, it would also be 2 minutes per page. When you look at the next one, it is what? 30 minutes for 14 pages. 30 minutes, 14 pages, which again is awful close to 2 minutes per page. You know, when you talk about gas mileage, it's in mpg, miles over gallons. You go 600 miles and you use 10 gallons. You reduce that and your gas mileage is 60 mpg. That mpg just stands for putting this miles per 1 gallon. That's really all it stands for. Consider yourself very well